In March 2023, the city of Glendale, Arizona officially renamed itself Swift City, not as a joke, as a formal government proclamation. A real American city looked at the economic impact of one woman showing up with a microphone, decided that their existing identity was insufficient, and temporarily renamed themselves after a pop star. That was for 3 concerts. Taylor Swift's Eras Tour went on to play 149 shows in 53 cities across 5 continents.
It grossed $2.08 billion in ticket sales.
It was attended by 10.17 million people. It generated an estimated $5 billion in total consumer spending globally. Cities fought each other for the right to host her. Governments measured GDP bumps. Central banks, actual central banks, studied the inflationary effects of her concert merchandise. Taylor Swift does not need to create a country. She already functions like one. She has a larger following than most nations have citizens. Her economic output exceeds the GDP of dozens of sovereign states. Her fans have a shared culture, a shared language, a shared legal system of unwritten rules about friendship bracelets. The only thing she is missing is a flag and a seat at the United Nations. So let's give her both. Let's do the math. Before we build Swiftopia, we need to understand the raw materials. Taylor Swift's net worth in 2026 is approximately $2 billion. That sounds like a lot until you remember that running a country is expensive. But $2 billion is not her only resource. Her real resource is people. Taylor Swift has over 500 million followers across social media platforms. In the United States alone, 53% of American adults consider themselves Taylor Swift fans. That is roughly 180 million people. Worldwide, the estimated number of dedicated Swifties, not casual listeners, but people who would identify themselves as part of the fandom, is approximately 100 million. If Swifties were a country, they would be the 15th largest nation on Earth by population. Larger than Germany, larger than the United Kingdom, larger than France. They would slot right between Egypt and Ethiopia. And unlike the populations of most countries, this one is unified by a shared cultural identity, a shared lexicon, and an almost religious devotion to a single leader. That is not a fan base. That is a civilization. Now, you cannot build a country on fandom alone. You need land. And this is where Swift's $2 billion starts to look interesting. The smallest sovereign nation in the world with a functioning economy is Tuvalu, a chain of coral atolls in the South Pacific, with a population of 9,362 people, a total land area of 26 square kilometers, and a GDP of $65 million. Taylor Swift's net worth is 30 times the GDP of Tuvalu. She could fund the entire Tuvaluan government for 3 decades and still have money left over. Nauru is the world's smallest island nation at 21 square kilometers with a GDP of $169 million. Palau has 18,000 citizens and a GDP of around $350 million. The Marshall Islands have a GDP of $297 million. Swift could buy any of these economies outright several times over, but she does not want an existing country. She wants to build one from scratch. So let's find some land. Private islands are surprisingly affordable by billionaire standards. You can buy a 100-acre private island in the Caribbean for $10 to $50 million. The larger ones, like Necker Island, which Richard Branson purchased for $180,000 in 1978, run a bit higher at today's prices. A substantial archipelago of 500 to 1,000 acres suitable for a small nation would cost roughly $100 to $300 million. Let's say Swift spends $200 million on a cluster of islands in the South Pacific or the Caribbean. That leaves her with $1.8 billion to build a country. Now we need infrastructure. A small island nation for an initial population of 10,000 residents needs the basics: desalination plants for fresh water, solar and wind power stations, a hospital, a school system, a port, an airport runway, housing, roads, and a communications network. Based on comparable island development projects, this runs roughly $300 to $500 million for a basic but functional setup. A government needs to operate. A national budget for 10,000 citizens at a modest per capita spending level of $10,000 per person per year, roughly comparable to upper middle-income small island nations, is $100 million annually. Swift can fund 13 years of government operations from her remaining $1.3 billion without generating a single dollar of additional revenue. But here is where Swiftopia becomes something no other micronation in history could be: It has a built-in economy. Swift is not just the head of state, she is the economy. Her music catalog alone is valued at approximately $600 million and generates tens of millions in annual royalties. Her touring capacity generates hundreds of millions per year. Merchandise sales from the Eras Tour alone were estimated at $400 million. Imagine Swiftopia hosts an annual residency, a permanent Eras Tour destination where Swifties from around the world pilgrimage to see Taylor perform on her own sovereign soil. No tax obligations to any other nation, no venue rental fees, no local government permits. She owns the venue because she owns the country. At 50,000 attendees per show, tickets averaging $250 each, and a schedule of 50 shows per year, that is $625 million in annual ticket revenue alone. Add merchandise, food, lodging, and transportation, and Swiftopia's tourism economy could realistically generate $1 to $2 billion per year. For comparison, Palau's entire economy runs on about $350 million per year, primarily from tourism. Swiftopia would generate 3 to 6 times the GDP of Palau on concerts alone. Swift does not need foreign aid. She does not need a fishing license. She does not need a .tv domain. Her GDP is Taylor Swift. But a country is more than economics. It needs governance. It needs a constitution. It needs laws. Here is where things get interesting. The Montevideo Convention of 1933, the international agreement that defines what constitutes a sovereign state, requires 4 things: a permanent population, a defined territory, a functioning government, and the capacity to enter into relations with other states. Permanent population? If even 0.01% of the 100 million Swifties relocate, that is 10,000 citizens, more than Tuvalu, more than Nauru, and there would be a wait list. Defined territory? She bought the islands. Check. Functioning government? Swift already runs a global corporation with thousands of employees, manages international logistics across 21 countries, and coordinated a $2 billion operation that moved 10 million people across 5 continents without a single financial scandal. She is more operationally qualified than most actual heads of state. Capacity to enter into relations with other states? This is the hard part. Sovereignty is not self-declared. It is recognized. And no existing nation has any incentive to recognize Swiftopia because doing so sets a precedent that any billionaire with a fan base can carve out territory and declare independence. The United Nations requires approval from the General Assembly for membership. The Security Council can veto new members. And the 5 permanent members, the US, UK, France, China, and Russia, are unlikely to approve a precedent where pop stars become sovereign entities. Partly for geopolitical reasons. Partly because nobody in the Kremlin wants to explain to their citizens why a woman who sings about breakups has the same diplomatic standing as the Russian Federation. Without recognition, Swiftopia is technically a micronation, not a sovereign state. It can print currency, it can issue passports, it can fly a flag. But those passports will not get you through customs anywhere. That currency will not be accepted at any bank, and that flag will not fly at the UN. Swiftopia would exist in the same legal gray zone as Sealand, the Principality of Hutt River, and the Republic of Molossia, which is literally one man's house in Nevada. Now let's talk about defense. Every sovereign nation needs the ability to defend itself. Swiftopia, a small island nation with 10,000 citizens and no military tradition, is extraordinarily vulnerable. Any country with a navy could technically invade it before the second verse of Shake It Off. Swift could hire private security contractors. At $1,000 per day per contractor, a force of 500 armed guards would cost roughly $182 million per year. She could purchase patrol boats, radar systems, and coastal defense infrastructure for another $100 million up front. But even with all of that, Swiftopia's military capability is roughly equivalent to a well-funded private yacht club. The real defense strategy is not military, it is cultural. Swiftopia's defense is that attacking it would be the single most unpopular military decision in human history. 100 million Swifties across every country on Earth would immediately mobilize. The political cost of invading Swiftopia would be higher than the political cost of invading most actual countries, because most actual countries do not have 100 million emotionally invested citizens spread across every voting district in every democracy on Earth. Taylor Swift's military deterrent is not aircraft carriers. It is parasocial devotion at a civilization-level scale. Nobody wants to be the president who bombed the friendship bracelet factory. Now, the breaking point. The single biggest threat to Swiftopia is not military. It is demographic. Countries need babies. A population of 10,000 superfans, no matter how devoted, will age out, and the nation needs organic population growth to sustain itself. The average Swiftie is estimated to be between 18 and 35. That is a healthy demographic for founding a nation, but it is not self-sustaining without families, schools, and long-term generational planning. Swiftopia needs to transition from a fan club to an actual civilization within one generation, and that requires something no amount of money or fame can guarantee. People choosing to raise children on a small island in the middle of the ocean because they really liked a song about a scarf. The other problem is succession. Every monarchy and every republic has a mechanism for leadership transition. Swiftopia is, by definition, Taylor Swift's nation. It exists because of her. Its economy runs on her. Its cultural identity is her. What happens when she retires? What happens when she dies? There is no succession plan that does not fundamentally alter the nature of the state. The British monarchy survived because it transitioned from personal rule to constitutional governance over centuries. Swiftopia does not have centuries. It has one generation to figure out whether it is a country or a very expensive theme park with a passport. So, could Taylor Swift create her own sovereign nation financially? Yes. Her $2 billion could buy the territory, build the infrastructure, and fund government operations for over a decade. Her annual earning capacity could sustain a GDP larger than several existing sovereign nations. The economics work. Culturally? Absolutely. She has 100 million dedicated followers, a shared identity, a shared economy, and a fan base more loyal and organized than many political parties. No entertainer in history has ever had a stronger foundation for nationhood. Legally? Almost certainly not. International recognition requires the consent of existing sovereign states, and no existing state wants to open the door to pop star secession. Without UN membership, Swiftopia is a glorified resort. But here is the part that sticks. Taylor Swift already has a population larger than most countries. She already has an economy larger than several nations. She already has a cultural influence that reshapes the policies of real governments. Glendale renamed itself for her. Central banks studied her effect on inflation. The Federal Reserve mentioned her in economic analyses. The only thing separating Taylor Swift from an actual head of state is a piece of paper from the United Nations. And given what she has already built without one, the paper might be the least impressive part of the whole operation. I'm David, and welcome to E.T.E. Thanks for watching.